Welcome back to our channel, everyone. Today is a beautiful day to dive deep into the drama of Genoa City, even if the storylines we are covering are incredibly dark and heavy. Grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's unravel the latest terrifying twists together. It is so incredibly heavy to process everything that is happening out there in the suffocating heat of the Nevada desert right now. I mean, when you really stop and think about the sheer magnitude of Matt Clark's sadistic revenge plot, it honestly makes your blood run cold. I have been watching this show for a very long time, and I can genuinely say that I have rarely felt this level of visceral, stomach-churning dread while watching an episode. We are witnessing a slow-motion train wreck, a tragedy of epic proportions, and the absolute worst part is, we are completely powerless to stop it. We just have to sit here and watch the Newman family be pulled into this terrifying vortex of pure, unadulterated evil. Let's just start by talking about that incredibly tense, claustrophobic scene in the Las Vegas hotel room. The desperation in there was so thick you could practically choke on it. You have Adam, Nick, and Chelsea, all backed into a corner, trying desperately to convince Reza Thompson to betray Matt and help them. And what do? They promise her $1 million. $1 million, just like that. It is always so staggering to me to see the kind of financial power the Newmans can wield when their backs are against the wall. But Reza, she is a survivor. She operates in the shadows of Sin City, and she knows better than to trust a Newman promise. She is interested. Of course she is. But she is also deeply angry because Adam had used her in the past. She wants the cold, hard cash up front. And then, Adam does what Adam does best. Doesn't he? He starts bringing up their shared history. He starts using his past with Reza, leaning into that old, manipulative charm to try and break down her defenses. I have to admit, watching him do that, it made me cringe a little bit. It is so uncomfortable to see him slip back into those old habits. And Chelsea. Oh, poor Chelsea. My heart really went out to her in that moment. You could practically see the discomfort and the jealousy radiating off her in waves. It is so painfully clear how much she hates being reminded of Adam's past lives, his past schemes, and especially the other women who have occupied his time. It was a brilliant, subtle character moment in the midst of all this chaos. Eventually, the pressure becomes too much, and Reza finally cracks. She gives them the information they have been begging for. She tells them that Matt is hiding out at an abandoned, dilapidated old gas station on the outskirts of town, a place he apparently uses to stash his illegal drug shipments. The moment those words leave her mouth, you can see the sheer, unadulterated panic completely wash over Nick's face. The realization hits him like a physical blow. Sharon and Noah, his family, his world, they are walking completely blind into a literal death trap. Matt has their phones, they have no idea what they are walking into, and Nick is miles away. And here's where I just have to pause and vent my absolute frustration for a second. I mean, seriously. I know that we, as viewers, have to suspend our disbelief for the sake of a good television drama, but why on earth didn't anyone just pick up a phone and call Sharon? It is driving me absolutely crazy. I found myself literally shouting at the screen. Use the hotel phone, borrow Chelsea's cell phone, run down to the lobby and buy a cheap, disposable burner phone. Just do something, dial the number and warn them. A simple, 10-second phone call could have prevented this entire nightmare. But I suppose logic has no place when a soap opera needs to push its characters to the absolute brink of destruction. It is frustrating, but it is what it is. So, instead of doing the logical thing, they come up with this incredibly risky, convoluted plan. They force Reza to call Matt. The tension in that hotel room as they wait for him to pick up the line. It was palpable. You could hear a pin drop. Reza feeds Matt the lie, telling him that Adam and Nick have finally given up the chase, that they have thrown in the towel and are heading back to Genoa City. You can just feel the desperate, suffocating hope radiating from Adam and Nick, praying that Matt will swallow the bait and lower his guard. But Matt Clark, he is a psychopath, yes, but he is certainly not an idiot. He listens to Reza's clumsy, nervous phone call, and he immediately knows she is lying. He can probably hear the fear in her voice. The chilling realization that the element of surprise is completely gone just settles over the narrative like a dark cloud. Matt knows they are still in Vegas. He knows they are probably closing in on him. He is always 10 steps ahead of everyone else, and it makes him such a terrifying, formidable villain. And then, they ambush. Oh god, this scene was just pure nightmare fuel. Matt sneaking around that dusty old gas station, waiting for Sharon and Noah to arrive. And when they do, he just slips right into the back seat of their car. Again, I have to ask, why weren't the car doors locked? But setting that aside, the sheer, paralyzing terror of that moment when Sharon and Noah realize they are not alone, when they see Matt sitting there in the rearview mirror. The cold, dead look in his eyes. He pulls the gun, and all the air just leaves the room. It makes me physically ill to watch Sharon go through this kind of trauma again, especially at the hands of the man who has already caused her so much historical pain. I mean, we really have to pause and look back at the history of Matt Clark to truly understand the gravity of this nightmare. Longtime viewers will remember the absolute hell Matt put Sharon 3 years ago. The manipulation, the abuse, the way he systematically tried to destroy her life and her innocence. Nick was the knight in shining armor back then, the young man who stepped up to protect the woman he loved from a literal monster. Matt has harbored this deep, festering hatred for Nick ever since. This isn't just about business or a simple grudge, this is a decades-old vendetta rooted in obsession and a bruised, psychopathic ego. Matt has spent years dreaming of the day he could finally tear Nick down from his pedestal and make Sharon suffer for choosing a Newman over him. And now, he is executing his masterstroke. Matt forces them out of the car and into this dark, dusty, suffocating old garage. The atmosphere the directors created for this scene is just incredibly oppressive. You can almost taste the stale air and the overwhelming fear. Matt looks at them, and with the sick, twisted smile, he promises them that this is going to be a nightmare. And knowing his history with Sharon, knowing the unspeakable, horrifying things he has done to her in the past, you know deep in your bones that he means every single word. He isn't just trying to scare them, he wants to break them. And then there is Noah. Brave, desperate, terrified Noah. He tries so hard to reason with a monster. He starts pleading with Matt, promising him anything and everything, desperately trying to negotiate their lives. It just breaks my heart into a million pieces to see this young man, who has already been through so much, trying to protect his mother. He is trying to appeal to a humanity that Matt simply does not possess. Watching Noah bargain with the devil, it is one of the most tragic things I have seen on this show in a long time. Meanwhile, back at the hotel room, we get the immediate aftermath of the boys leaving. Nick and Adam have rushed out the door, leaving Chelsea and Riza completely alone. Let's take a moment to really delve into what Chelsea must be going through back in that hotel suite. When Nick and Adam rushed out the door, leaving her alone with Riza, you could feel the shift in the room's energy. Chelsea has fought so hard to build a stable life, to secure her place by Adam's side, and yet she is constantly forced to confront the ghosts of his past. Riza represents everything Chelsea fears about Adam, the dark, shadowy underworld he is so drawn to, the women he manipulated to get what he wanted. Sitting across from Riza, Chelsea isn't just worried about Adam's physical safety, she is terrified for his soul. She knows that every time Adam dips his toes back into this kind of darkness, a part of him threatens to slip away forever. And the fact that she has to sit there, powerless, waiting for a phone call that could shatter her world, it is a quiet, agonizing kind of torture. And the tension between these two women, it is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Two women who have been burned by Adam Newman, sizing each other up in the quiet aftermath of the storm. It is a fascinating character study, really. You have Chelsea, fiercely defending her territory, making it clear that she is Adam's present and future. And then you have Riza, who just looks at her with this cynical, knowing pity. It is a quiet, tense conversation, but it speaks volumes about the collateral damage Adam leaves in his wake. But the real heart-pounding action is happening out on the road. The car ride from hell. Nick and Adam are tearing through the Nevada desert, desperately racing toward that abandoned gas station to save Noah and Sharon. And Nick is insisting on driving. Which is just absolute, reckless madness. The man is physically and mentally falling apart at the seams, and yet his stubborn Newman pride simply will not let him relinquish control of the wheel. He is sweating, he is erratic, and he is a danger to himself and everyone else on the road. Adam finally realizes that he has to intervene. We get this incredibly intense confrontation inside the speeding car. Adam calls Nick out on the lies. He tells him that he saw the hidden stash of pills, the bags Nick stole from the storage unit. You can hear the genuine fear and desperation in Adam's voice. He knows his brother is an addict in the throes of a severe crisis, and he knows this is the absolute worst possible time for Nick to be losing his grip on reality. Adam is trying to pull Nick back from the edge. But Nick's reaction, it is so frustrating, yet so tragically, painfully realistic. It is the classic defense mechanism of the addict. He completely denies it. He refuses to admit that he has made a mistake, refuses to see how his reckless actions and his drug use are endangering the very people he is racing so desperately to save. I just found myself wanting to reach through the screen and shake him, but at the same time, I just wanted to hug him. He is in so much pain, fighting a demon he cannot control, all while trying to be the hero his family needs. Adam lays down the hard and forgiving truth. He tells Nick point blank that he is putting everyone in mortal danger. The raw honesty between these two brothers in this moment. It is a dynamic we so rarely get to see without some sort of corporate agenda or family inheritance attached to it. Stripped of all the Newman Enterprises drama, they are just two men, two brothers, utterly terrified for the people they love. It is a powerful, grounding moment amidst all the high-stakes thriller action. The dynamic between Nick and Adam in that speeding car is a storyline that deserves its own deep analysis. These two brothers have been at each other's throats for the better part of their adult lives. They have fought over women, over Newman Enterprises, over their father's approval. They have sabotaged each other, betrayed each other, and sworn each other off more times than we can count. Yet, beneath all the bitter rivalry and the toxic Newman legacy, there is this undeniable, unbreakable blood tie. When the chips are down, when their family is in mortal peril, they instinctively band together. Adam is in that car because he genuinely wants to help his brother save his family. He isn't plotting a corporate takeover, he is trying to be a good brother, and that is what makes his fatal advice so incredibly gut-wrenching. He finally steps up to be the supportive brother Nick needs, and in doing so, he unwittingly hands Nick a death sentence. It is a tragedy worthy of Shakespeare. And then we cut back to the garage, and Matt delivers the ultimate psychological torture. He looks at Sharon and Noah, holding them at gunpoint, and he tells them that one of them is going to die today, and the other one will be forced to watch. I literally gasped out loud when he delivered that line. It is the most sadistic, evil, soul-crushing ultimatum imaginable. Matt doesn't just want to end their lives, he wants to destroy their souls. He wants the survivor to live with the eternal trauma of watching their loved one be murdered. It is pure, demonic cruelty. And that is where the week's episodes leave us, hanging by a thread on the edge of this terrifying, agonizing cliff. We know that Matt has figured out Riz's clumsy lie. He knows that Nick and Adam are still in Vegas, and he probably knows they are speeding toward him right now. The anticipation of the violence that is about to erupt. It is almost too much to bear. The stage is set for an absolute bloodbath, and I am genuinely terrified for every single character involved. Looking ahead to the spoilers for next week, the news is just devastating. The heart-pounding car ride continues, but things have taken a drastic turn. Adam has finally managed to take the wheel. Nick has been relegated to the passenger seat, and it is becoming horrifyingly clear that his body is simply giving up on him. The adrenaline is wearing off, and the reality of his chemical dependency is crashing down on him with the force of a freight train. The physical reality of Nick's withdrawal is put on full display, and it is not easy to watch. The show's creators are not holding back, and the actor is delivering a masterclass in physical performance. It isn't just a little bit of sweat, it is a full-body breakdown. You can practically feel the suffocating heat inside that car, despite the air conditioning blasting. Nick's hands are trembling so violently he can barely grip the door handle. His eyes are darting, his skin has taken on this sickly, ashen pallor, and you can see the muscles in his jaw clenching in agonizing spasms. Withdrawal from a potent cocktail of cocaine and fentanyl is a violent rebellion of the central nervous system. His body is screaming for the chemical, overriding every logical thought, every instinct for self-preservation. It is a terrifying depiction of how addiction strips away a person's dignity and control, leaving them a prisoner in their own failing body. And this is where Adam makes a fatal, catastrophic miscalculation. Seeing his brother in such immense physical agony, and knowing that they are mere minutes away from walking into a literal war zone against an armed psychopath, Adam makes a pragmatic decision. He looks at Nick, and he tells him to take the drugs. He actually encourages his brother to use. Just do it. Do what you need to do. Those words, oh my God, those words are going to haunt Adam Newman for the rest of his natural life. You can see his thought process. Adam thinks he is helping. He thinks Nick needs to be functional, clear-headed, and physically capable of fighting Matt Clark. He believes that a quick fix is the only way they are going to survive the next hour. He has absolutely no idea that he is essentially handing his brother a loaded weapon and telling him to pull the trigger. It makes me want to cry, honestly. The tragic irony of it all is just suffocating. So, under his brother's urging, Nick reaches into his stash and takes the pill. He swallows the fentanyl, desperately seeking that chemical relief, completely and utterly unaware that he has just ingested poison. Because this is where Matt's brilliant, evil foresight comes into play. Matt knew Nick was an addict. He knew Nick would find the stash in the storage room and steal it. And he knew that eventually, under extreme pressure, Nick would cave and take the drugs. The setting, it is just so perfectly, tragically ironic. Las Vegas, the city of bright neon lights, endless parties, and the illusion that anyone can hit the jackpot. But away from the glamorous strip, out in the desolate, and forgiving expanse of the Nevada desert, the reality is stark and brutal. That abandoned gas station is the complete antithesis of the Vegas dream. It is a forgotten, decaying relic, swallowed by sand and dust, a place where people go to hide their darkest secrets. The contrast between the glittering casinos where Adam used to run his high-stakes poker games and this filthy, suffocating garage where his brother is dying. It is a brilliant visual metaphor for the dark underbelly of the Newman family's wealth and privilege. They can buy out luxury hotel suites, but they cannot buy their way out of Matt's dusty tomb. The sickest, most twisted part of this entire tragedy is the surveillance. Matt isn't even in the room when the poison takes effect. He isn't holding a gun to Nick's head. He is sitting safely in his own vehicle, miles away from the immediate danger, watching the entire horror show unfold on a live surveillance feed on his cell phone. The technological aspect of Matt's revenge is profoundly chilling. In the old days of soap opera villainy, the bad guy had to be in the room to gloat. They had to stand over their victim and deliver a monologue. But Matt Clark has adapted to the modern age, and it makes him infinitely more terrifying. By setting up a live surveillance feed, he has turned attempted murder into a twisted form of digital voyeurism. He is sitting in the air-conditioned comfort of his car, completely detached from the physical reality of the violence he has unleashed. He watches Nick's agonizing collapse through the cold, glowing screen of a smartphone, treating it like a viral video rather than the destruction of a human life. This detachment highlights the true depth of his psychopathy. And Matt's reaction, it makes my skin crawl just thinking about it. He is watching the screen, watching Nick's body begin to fail, and he is laughing. He is actually mocking him. The rich Newman boy finally hit the jackpot with a bad batch. Hearing him say those words, seeing the sadistic joy on his face as Nick collapses, it is the definition of pure evil. He is reveling in the destruction of a man's life, treating it like a twisted reality show for his own personal entertainment. The realization that Matt planned this overdose from the very beginning is just staggering. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a tragic coincidence. It was a calculated, premeditated biological assassination. He weaponized Nick's deepest vulnerability, his addiction, and turned it into a lethal trap. It is a level of psychological and physical cruelty that is genuinely hard to comprehend. Matt Clark has proven himself to be one of the most terrifying villains in the history of this show. And the impending emotional fallout from this. I don't even know how these characters are going to survive it. What happens when Adam realizes what he has done? The guilt is going to absolutely crush him into dust. He looked his brother in the eye and told him to take the very pill that killed him, or at least, put him into a coma. How does a person ever recover from that kind of complicity? Adam has done a lot of terrible things in his life, but this is going to break him in a way he has never been broken before. We also need to deeply consider the psychological horror from Sharon's perspective. Imagine being chained up in that filthy garage. They are thick with dust and gasoline fumes, terrified that Matt is going to pull the trigger at any second. And then, the heavy metal door swings open, and Nick arrives. For a split second, there must have been this overwhelming, blinding rush of relief. Nick, her protector, the man who has saved her so many times before, has finally come to rescue them, but that hope is snatched away almost instantly. Instead of a heroic rescue, she is forced to watch her savior crumble. She has to watch Nick, the strongest man she knows, fall to his knees and collapse onto the unforgiving concrete floor, his body violently shutting down from the poison narcotics. The whiplash from absolute salvation to total, devastating despair. It is enough to break anyone's mind. She is bound by chains, unable to even crawl to his side to comfort him as he slips into a coma. It is the ultimate manifestation of helplessness. Matt kept his sadistic promise. He told her she would be forced to watch her loved one die, and now he is making it happen. And Noah, poor Noah, witnessing his father's demise, the boy who tried so hard to negotiate, to be brave, to protect his mother, reduced to a horrified, screaming spectator. The entire Newman family is being utterly shattered, torn apart piece by piece, all because of one man's sick vendetta and a tiny, tainted pill. It is a Greek tragedy playing out in the neon glow of Las Vegas. As we brace ourselves for the fallout, it forces us to reflect on the nature of consequences and the inescapable weight of our choices. Nick's stubborn pride, his refusal to admit his vulnerability and seek help for his addiction, ultimately led him to steal that tainted stash. Adam's pragmatic, emotionally detached approach to problem-solving led him to give the worst advice imaginable under the guise of being helpful. And Matt Clark's refusal to let go of the past has turned him into a monster devoid of humanity. Every single character in this storyline is currently reaping the devastating harvest of their own flaws and historical baggage. It is a masterfully woven tapestry of grief, guilt, and horror. The writers have painted these characters into a corner where there are no easy escapes, no magical resets. The trauma of this day in the Nevada desert will permanently alter the DNA of the Newman family, leaving scars that will never truly heal. As I sit here reflecting on all of this, writing this out, I am just overwhelmed by the darkness of this current storyline. It is a stark, brutal reminder of the devastating, all-consuming power of addiction, and how easily that vulnerability can be exploited by those who wish us harm. It is not an easy watch, but it is undeniably compelling television. The performances from the cast have been nothing short of spectacular, conveying a depth of pain and terror that transcends the usual soap opera drama. We are heading into what promises to be one of the darkest, most emotionally draining weeks in the history of the young and the restless. Honestly, do not know how Nick survives this medical crisis. I do not know how Adam lives with himself after giving that fatal advice. I do not know how Sharon and Noah will ever see the horror of that garage. But I know that I will be watching, holding my breath, and praying for some kind of miracle in the dessert. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and hold your loved ones close. Because in Genoa City, everything can change in the blink of an eye.